It's no secret that I've been an Xbox hater for quite some time now. But I don't hate just to hate. In the good old days when I was but a wee lad, still in tighty whities and peeing the bed, I owned an Xbox 360 and an Xbox One. But then the little nugget inside my skull one day went, where the game's at? So I got a PS4, and from that day, it was the greatest decision of my life. But why am I like this? What is the reason? Well, number one, Xbox has been really dumb in the past. 3 of those things actually coming in recent times, with them announcing that Xbox exclusives will be coming to PlayStation, and then them shutting down multiple studios, and then the next day, the head of Xbox, Matt Booty, comes out saying we need studios like the one they just shut down. And you got people like Phil Spencer saying that people won't start buying Xboxes like crazy if they don't make consistently good exclusives. What people, man? What people? Another reason I hate Xbox is because they just don't give me a reason not to hate with the games they put out. Hi-Fi Rush is the only great game that they've come out with exclusive-wise since Sunset Overdrive, which came out in 2014. And guess what? Hi-Fi Rush literally came to PlayStation, so that's not even true anymore. They release the same copy and paste racing game over and over again, and their fans will drool over these games, then at the same time dunk on sports games that do the exact same thing. They have dead IPs that have fallen off drastically since the Xbox 360 days, and they don't do really anything new or interesting with them. They haven't had a single Game of the Year nomination since the Game Awards have started in like 2013, and while that's not a strong argument on its own, I think most people know or have an understanding as to why this is the case. Xbox just consistently makes bad shit or mediocre shit. They don't consistently make great or even good games like Nintendo or PlayStation. Hence, why the console is dying. And I don't want this because the more competition in the industry, the better. Because competition only benefits us, the consumer. When businesses are competing, or athletes are competing, or anything is competing with anything, that makes the opposing thing want to do better. Now, luckily, PlayStation and Nintendo haven't really gotten lazy with their games in the past, 5 to 6 years. But there are occasions where they will slip up and do some dumb shit. That's not to say that Xbox doing shitty is solely the cause of some dumb decisions, but them doing bad certainly amplifies and causes things like that to happen more often. Like, for example, PlayStation rushing out Insomniac to put Spider-Man 2 out when they didn't even want to, or them starting to push this account linking stuff onto their PC ports. Granted, they did overturn the stuff with Helldivers, but as a business decision, it's still pretty stupid that a bunch of countries still can't play Ghost of Tsushima. That's also not even mentioning the fucking PlayStation Portal, the most pointless shit ever. You got them trying to do things with the PSVR 2, which nobody gives a fuck about. It's just stuff like this that just shows that PlayStation is getting a little comfortable. They can do things like this because they're getting comfortable. You got Nintendo, which I don't need to talk about how shit of a company Nintendo is. But guess what? Nintendo consistently still makes good to great games. So even if they release a shitty Pokemon game every once in a while, nobody cares because Nintendo's already earned its esteem. But what is the point of me saying all this? Well, that's because Hellblade 2 is another in a long line of disappointing Xbox games for me. Granted, I never played the first Hellblade game, but I did watch the story for it on YouTube after beating the second game. But was Hellblade 2 disappointing for me on a story front or on a technical level? Hell no, but that's the problem. Because for the 5 years this game was apparently in development, that's all they cared about. Because this isn't a game, this is an interactive movie. The take that people have on PlayStation exclusives that they're quote-unquote movie games has always been brain dead to anyone who has an IQ above 50. Most of Sony's exclusive games are 70 to 80% gameplay and 30 to 20% cinematics or walking sections. Hellblade 2 is the definition of what a movie game is. The combat here can be best described as an empty water bottle because there is no depth. You have a light attack, a heavy attack, a focus mechanic that is just an insta-kill pretty much, and a parry mechanic that is only engaging if you have the reaction time of a snail from the Make-A-Wish program. Now granted, the combat does look cool, and it looks cinematic as shit, but that's all it does is look, but that's not how it feels. Do not let the gameplay demos and trailers fool you for this game. There is no depth in this combat system. The boss fights in this game can look visually spectacular, and I'd be lying if I said shit like this wasn't cool. Alright, this shit's pretty fire. Damn. but holy shit, would it kill the developers to even make them even remotely engaging to anyone above the age of 8 years old. And another problem is how forgiving the checkpoint systems are with these boss fights, and the combat encounters as a whole. If you die in this game, you have about the same amount of consequences in this game as you do in a fucking Lego game. And dying in this game really isn't easy, even when you're playing on the hardest difficulty. And the combat is so goddamn repetitive. The only time I would ever die playing this game is if I was so genuinely bored that I just stopped caring, therefore making me slip up out of boredom. Or if I got caught on fire by one of these guys because the wonky dodge mechanic didn't do what I wanted it to do. And I promise you, I probably only died 3 times throughout my entire playthrough of this fucking game. And that's not all with the gameplay. The level design is also atrocious. You have like one branching path throughout every level where all you will find is like a lore dump. The rest is literally just a walking simulator where you will run into these brain-dead puzzles that's like, move orb here, walk to place, and let the game line up symbol for you. And on top of these puzzles already being brain dead, you have these 2 ASMR podcasters in your ear telling you the answer to every puzzle in like the first 5 seconds you see it. And I don't mind the voices in your head outside of the puzzles, but goddamn they're annoying within them. Like, I don't like when the newer God of War games do this shit with the puzzles either, but at least those games don't have brain dead puzzles for the whole runtime, and at least they give you like 3 to 5 minutes before giving you a hint. There was also this level that was mixed with like brain dead puzzles, and they tried to make it like a horror atmosphere, and that shit was like the least intense shit ever. I'm sorry, but when your combat is this brain dead, I'm never gonna be on my toes thinking, oh no, something's gonna get me. And then when they do take away your ability to do combat, you would think, oh, maybe the atmosphere will get better. No, all you have to do is like follow this fucking light trail, and it's the most brain dead shit ever. But all these brain dead gameplay sequences, like the bad combat, the bad puzzles, the countless walking simulator sections, take up like 30% of the game, and it messes with the actual good part of the game, the story. The story on its own has good pacing, but the shit gameplay stuff makes the pacing come to a grinding halt at numerous points. And this wouldn't be a problem if the gameplay was actually good, but it's not, so it just feels like a drag. I don't understand why they didn't just make a Telltale game, or even a game like Detroit Become Human, because even Detroit Become Human has better and more engaging gameplay than this shit. Your decisions in that game matter a lot. If you mess up in sequences, characters can literally die for the rest of the game. The QTEs actually force quick reaction times. Like, Detroit doesn't have great gameplay or anything, but it's at least more engaging than this shit, and the gameplay in Detroit doesn't screw over the pacing of the game. And now, I know I've been shitting on the game a lot, but the reason I'm so mad that it's not great is because it so easily could have been. The story is fantastic, and the characters you meet throughout, whether they be antagonist, impact characters, parallels to Senau, sometimes characters can check all 3 boxes, but they all have depth and they are so interesting. This world is so interesting. The technical elements of this game, the sound design, the art direction, the visuals, the cinematography, the OST, every other element of this game except the gameplay, level design, and the boss fights is fantastic, and it sucks. It feels like they put no effort into the most important thing about making a video game. I do like to judge games based on what they're going for and what they're most focused on. But when the most important parts of a video game is so goddamn intrusive on telling a story, it makes the story so annoying to get through. Despite me thinking it's literally the best story that has come out all year, I think that this game is just the embodiment of why I hold the belief that you can have a game with a bad story and it can still be great, but you can't have a great game with unengaging / bad gameplay, even if that game has a fantastic story. Because no matter how good or bad your story is, most of the time, gameplay trumps it almost every single time. I know normally I go more in depth when I'm talking about story and praising things, and I did kind of want to go in depth with like all the stuff that I loved about the story, but I don't really want to spoil it, so if you have not played the game, don't play the game, watch that shit on YouTube. Overall, as a game, I think Hellblade 2 is terrible, but as a piece of art in general, I give it like a 7 out of 10, but it could have easily been a 10 out of 10 if they gave even half as much attention to the gameplay as they did everything else. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and yeah.